I wanted to rank the legends in terms of their utility in Season 12 Ranked Kings Canyon. People struggle with Kings Canyon in Ranked, and you just have to approach it differently than other maps and other game modes. Hello, Hoagie! Hi, YouTube. You're right, we're recording a YouTube video right now. Yeah, so Kings Canyon, it's a different experience than ranking on other maps. Third parties are a big problem on Kings Canyon, and I say this all the time, but this is reality, right? You can either complain about the game you want to be playing, or you can succeed at the game that you actually are playing. You can talk about what you wish the game was, or you can adapt to the game as it is. And right now, as it is, if you're playing ranked, you're playing ranked in Season 12 with Season 12 rank point rules on Kings Canyon. Here's really the strategy that you need to develop Kings Canyon. First off, don't hot drop. Even up in the diamond lobbies right now. I'm D3 right now. Hopefully I'll be Masters before the week's over. Well, not before this week's over. Before next week's over. Even in diamond lobbies right now, so many people the ship flies in and they just drop straight down. And it's wild to me. If you just don't do that, you increase your chances of hitting top 10 dramatically. Hoagie and I were talking about this last time I was live. Just a real turning point for me in excelling at Battle Royale games was when Hoagie was watching Pro Fortnite, and he was like, nobody dies on drop. They just don't take those fights. And that was years ago. And then I started watching LGS, and I was like, yeah, dude, they don't take 50-50s because there's too much to lose. So, you know, it depends on what your aim is. If you're going to be bored if you don't hot drop, then hot drop. Just try to get better at it, you know. But if you want to gain more rank, if you want to move up in the tiers, you got to play in a certain way. And that certain way includes not hot dropping. You just stop that, your points are going to go up dramatically. But then beyond that, all right, we've survived the drop. We're out in the world. There are two things that you need in Kings Canyon because of how easily you can be third-partied. One is mobility. You've got to have mobility. And the other is strong defensive characters. I haven't streamed it yet, but I've been playing around with some defensive ways of playing. And it's not a lot of people's favorite way of playing, but if you want to rank up before this split ends, you got to adapt some of these strategies. You want to get in, get your points, get out of an area. Or get in, get your points, and be able to lock down an area. You don't want to stand in prolonged fights for long because someone is going to come along. This content would seem way more big brain with your new glasses. You gotta have mobility. That's the primary thing. You need to be able to get in fast, get out fast. And you've got to have defense to be able to lock an area down. You can actually play one style or the other, but I think your best bet is to play a mixture of the two styles. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. And a lot of the tactics that work on other maps, you don't have to play that way to like get to some decent ranks, but experiment with some stuff. For example, I've been experimenting with Watson. I've never played Watson, and now that I've like got the hang of it, I'm like, why did I never play this? Because if you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know that I am all about controlling the zone. And Watson is, a lot of people are going to argue with me and say it's Caustic. Caustic's the best legend for that, but I'm here to tell you it's Watson. If you figure out how to play Watson well. Alright, in any case, let's jump into it. Alright, so we're just going to go in alphabetical order here. Starting down at the bottom, we got Ashe. And so, Ashe's kit, she's got Tether. That's her Q ability. Her passive, she's able to scan death boxes for the surviving team of whoever killed that death box. That's huge on Kings Canyon. In Kings Canyon, you need to have a higher situational awareness than any other map. And Ashe is such a great legend. She mixes recon and mobility. Because with that passive, she also can see every death box on the map. And it blows my mind how many people don't know this. I get into ranked matches, ranked diamond matches all the time. And people are like, How are you telling me there are death boxes over in caustic water treatment when we're over in containment? Like, Ash sees that. That's her passive. That's what she does. And so you know where the drops have happened, you know where the fights have been going on, and you can use that information to either push intelligently or to avoid those areas if you need to avoid those areas. And you combine that with the fact that she has that rift. Pretty good distance you can cover with it, and it recharges pretty quickly. So I think Ash, S tier legend for Kings Canyon range. Alright, next we got Bangalore. I'm so mad at Bangalore right now. I'm kind of tilted at Bangalore mains. Because I've had so many games here lately where, and I just posted a rant about this today on the old TikToks. Be sure to follow the TikTok if you haven't yet. The smoke, man. There's so many Bangalore mains using their smoke as a weapon in a fight, and all it does is save the enemy squad from your teammates being able to get kills. And so I'm mad at Bangalore mains, but I need to not hold that against Bangalore. But at the end of the day, right now, Bangalore is not great for zone control in Kings Canyon. Her ult kind of helps with that, but it's not massive. Her Q ability Smoke, it is sort of useful for relocating across those fields. So it's not like she's totally useless or anything. And being able to speed up, that's her passive. When she's being shot at, she runs faster. That's pretty cool. It helps her get out of some dangerous situations. So her Smoke has some team utility, but her rest of her kit, very individual focused. I don't know, chat. I think we put Bangalore at a C, honestly. I think if you're great mechanically skilled, cool, Bangalore's a good choice for you personally, but there are other legends that you're gonna get more wins with overall. So right now I got Bang in a C. I can be swayed out of that. I might be able to bump Bang up to a B. How good is her Smoke when pushing through chokes? Good question. I don't know. I can kind of think through that for a minute. Let's see. It kind of depends on if your team moves together fluently, but at the same time, depending on the choke, like I'm thinking of some of those tight canyons, right? I think it's kind of easy to fire into that smoke and get an idea of where someone is and then dump the rest of your ammo into that spot. So I'd say it's hit or miss on the chokes. It helps. It helps. But like you can't run straight at somebody through a choke with it, I don't think. Well, I think it has to be paired with some other stuff. Maybe we should put her B, though. Like that is big, getting through the chokes a little faster, a little easier. Even a little bit of visibility cover. We'll put her at B. Alright, next we got Bloodhound. So, like I said, being able to understand things on the map, information, that's a pretty big deal. And Bloodhound has been a top tier legend from the get-go, right? For a lot of the ALGS, your comp was Bloodhound, Wraith, Jibby. That was it. Like that was, if you were going to win, that's what you were going to play. And although Bloodhound, I think, has fallen off in popularity some, they've definitely not fallen off in utility. Now, as far as being able to relocate, being able to lock an area down, not really doing a lot for you there. They're going to be helpful for pushing into squads. They're going to be helpful for identifying the traps of other teams. Being able to scan where the ring's going to be, that's a big deal. That's a great supporting role for your defensive characters if you're going to lock an area down. And being able to see the traps through the chokes, that kind of thing. I do think Bloodhound gets an A rank for utility on this map. And I'm going to rearrange some of these as we go, as I think through this, I think. But we're going to throw Bloodhound on A. As far as the recon characters go, I do think Bloodhound's still pretty useful. Bloodhound might be a B. Alright, let's do this. Bloodhound B, Bangalore C. Bang's going back down. I talked myself out of Bangalore being a B rank. Next we have Caustic. So Caustic throws the traps down, that's his Q ability. He is not susceptible to any caustic gas, his own or other people's. And he has the ult where he throws a gas cloud into an area. So Caustic is a primarily defensive legend, but his ult does give him some offensive utility, being able to push in where people have bunkered down if they don't have a way to counter that. So he's got that dual utility. Right now, I think he's the most popular of the defensive legends. It's maybe a toss-up between him and Jibby. And he's definitely a useful guy for locking an area down. I don't think there's really anything else we need to say about it. Like, Caustic, super useful once you've staked out the spot that you need to be. And late game in Kings Canyon especially, like, you've got to be able to do that. You've got to be able to lock an area down and claim it as your own. Or you've got to be able to move around consistently and bully people. But Caustic, big, useful guy for that. Caustic's getting an A tier. And the reason I'm putting him at A and not S, and I think all of my defensive legends are going to land on A, is because in Kings Canyon, you can excel with enough mobility and no defensive character, but it's pretty hard to excel with just defensive characters and no mobility. So you really need those mobility characters to support the defensive characters, and right now I think those are your ideal comps. You get you a mobility character, you get yourself a defensive character, and you get yourself a scanner recon character. And with Ashe, you've got a lot of that utility in one. You can't scan for zone with her, but you can scan, you can see where everybody's dying, you can scan for surviving teams off of death boxes, as well as the portal. And so I think if you've got an Ashe, you can actually kind of let go of some of that recon and mix it up with another legend if you'd like. Next we got Crypto. Crypto had a little rework this season, and that was pretty cool. That really boosted Crypto's usefulness, I think. Crypto's a challenge. I can't play Crypto well. I think there are a lot of Crypto mains who can't play Crypto well. But when you find one who can, so Stay Evolved, he comes by this chat a lot. That dude is a cracked Crypto player. That dude changed my mind on what Crypto could be, and that was before the rework. After the rework, Crypto can throw that drone out now without actually having to go into drone, and it'll fly out a set distance before stopping. So he can kind of set it up as a camera as he's running away to watch your back. He can set it down as a trap to pop the ult. Pretty useful. And then once you've got a Crypto that can kind of balance the going into drone mode with actually coming out and fighting, that's a huge deal. Being able to look at all the computer screen banners hanging around the world and see how many squads are near you, that is incredibly useful information. Not enough Cryptos give that information to their teams. If you're playing Crypto, you really need to be checking that all the time and letting your team know what's going on with it. In addition to that, Crypto can scan for the ring, and the EMP is a pretty big deal. And the EMP is a pretty big deal if your push, once you get toward the end and you've got people playing these defensive characters, so Caustic, you've got Watson. Remember, Crypto's EMP tears those traps down, tears those fences down. Super useful ability. And so Crypto's actually going A rank for me in the scanner, the recon character class. I would actually right now, I know this sounds crazy, all right, but right now on Kings Canyon, knowing the way that people have to play to get points, I would take a Crypto over a Bloodhound. If you've got someone who can play Crypto well, because of that ability to tear down trapped up areas. If you can coordinate on an EMP push into an area that was bunkered, you can mop up real fast, and congratulations, now you're holding that. So yeah, A rank for Crypto. Next is Fuse. And I am surprised by how controversial a pick Fuse still is for some people. Last split, when I was pushing to Masters, I did some looking for group Discords for the first time ever, and the number of people who are like, I don't want that Fuse. I don't want that Fuse. Just blew my mind. Fuse, okay, it's hard for him to survive off drop, but if you're dropping intelligently, that shouldn't be a big deal. If you're not dropping with 3 other squads, surviving off drop shouldn't be that hard. And even like that's a weird criticism that I hear all the time of Fuse. Well, he's not great at surviving the drop. And I don't know. You feel free to convince me, but how is Fuse any worse than any of the other legend at surviving drop? The only legends that I think have an edge that Fuse doesn't are the mobility legends. Legends with like an escape. Like you're a Loba, you can queue out. You're a Wraith, you can queue out. You can Valk away. You got Horizon. So like, all right, take the mobility legends away. Like, I don't know. I just don't see how he's like particularly worse at it than anybody else. And in fact, he's one of the few people that can do damage, like good damage immediately with those knuckle clusters. But laying all that aside, we're talking about King's Canyon, right? And so Fuse was one of my main picks for last split. And I mostly solo queued. So I had like half my push to masters with squad mates and half my push to masters with solo queue. And most of my solo queue was with Fuse. I just ignored whatever the randos had to say and popped off with him. Because he's good at breaking down doors, breaking up areas, breaking up bunkers. His Ring of Fire, that can be a pretty big game changer, trapping and isolating people. I've got some good clips of some Fuse kills that I've put up recently. Devastating legend if you know how to use it. He's a zone control legend. I think a lot of people view his kit as the point is to like try to kill people. And sure, you know, try that, but really he's for controlling zones. Knuckle cluster is for saying, hey, you can sit there if you want, but I'm gonna take your shield away if you do. It's for isolating, it's for driving people out of cover, and if you use that kit intelligently, it's great. That being said, I have not been playing Fuse on King's Canyon. His lack of mobility does make him kind of a liability when you're trying to cross certain areas. Being able to bust bunkers is pretty cool. I think he's useful. You just got to play him really well. He can't stand on his own in a comp. You've got to have the recon, the mobility, and the defense covered, and also bring a Fuse. So like, I think he works in an Ashe comp pretty well. But as much as I love Fuse, I don't think King's Canyon is the map for him, which is funny because it's the map with his location on it. Now late game Fuse still pretty useful on King's Canyon, but I do think like I don't think his weakness is early game. I think his weakness is mid game. King's Canyon, rotating in, get where it needs to be, and so it pains me to say, but as a legend, just as a legend, I think Fuse goes in C. I think he's got a lot of usefulness, but I think it's very niche, and I think you have to have a Fuse player who knows what they're doing. He's not a legend that you could just like pick up and pop off with on King's Canyon. I get a little Apex sacrilegious here, because I know Jibby's always an S tier legend, but I don't know if I'm going to put him there. Betrayal. The Fuse or the Jibby, or both. First, the Peeps. Look, Peeps are bad. They are. Now Fuse. Google's how to unsubscribe. Don't do that. All right, here you go. SS. Just kidding. All right, so Jibby is a solid defensive character, but not in some of the ways you need him to be on King's Canyon. And what I mean by that is you actually wind up holding buildings a lot in King's Canyon. You wind up holding areas behind rocks. And I know, like, pro play, there's still a ton of Jibby, and that makes sense. But if your squad's not playing on a pro level, I'm not sure you're getting the best out of Jibby's kit. So, us, filthy casuals, on Ranked on King's Canyon, Season 12. I think Jibby is a great pick I don't know that he's an S tier pick. You've got to play him well, you've got to stick with your team, you got to use that bubble intelligently. But he can't really like sustain you through a prolonged push into a building. He can't really claim an area like some of the other defensive legends. And like I said, none of the defensive legends can stand on their own in the way that some of these mobility characters can. That said, I think Jibby's great. I think Fortify's great. The Arm Shield's great. Like, it's hard to take a Jibby down. Jibby frustrates me all the time. I hate Fortify. I don't think Fortify should function the way that it does. Like this baseline percentage damage reduction, I think it's too much. I would rather see Jibby have like an extra 25 health or something. But all that aside, I don't think that he's like useless enough that we bump him down to B. I think he's still A. I just think he falls from S on King's Canyon right. That's all. Next we have Horizon. So Horizon's kit, she's got the black hole ult, which sucks people in. Very useful for getting kills. Very useful if you compare it with something else. Jibby Horizon ult, Caustic Horizon ult, a Fuse Horizon ult, all very useful things. You can wipe a squad in seconds if you do that with enough coordination. She can pull people out of their bunkers if she places that black hole right outside their door. That's pretty useful. Her Q ability enables her to get high ground, and there's a lot of verticality on King's Canyon, so that's very useful. But she kind of goes in the C tier with Bangalore and Fuse because there's a lot of individual usefulness there. There's a lot of niche usefulness there, but there's not a lot of like dealing with the meta of King's Canyon. And so, Horizon, C tier. Lifeline. I love Lifeline, and I understand why Lifeline has like fallen out of popularity. The removal of her shield when she was raising people off the ground, that was a big nerf. But I also understand that it was a pretty overpowered ability. But still, she's got her drones can pick people up off the ground. She doesn't have to stand there and res, so she can res while also providing cover fire. That's pretty unique. That's pretty cool. It can enable some pretty clutch plays. Reducing the amount of heals that you have to carry, that's a pretty big deal. And especially the way I play some of these legends, I probably don't carry enough heals, honestly, so I can carry some other stuff. I need to do better about that, but I'm always like kind of happy to see a Lifeline because she makes up for my shortcomings in decision making. And being able to call it in the care package, leveling up your team's shields, getting more supplies. That's pretty cool, pretty useful. So I don't think that she's niche enough to go down to C. I think she has a lot of utility, but you gotta have someone playing her well. I guess that's true of every. I need to just stop saying that. That's true of every legend. But I think Lifeline's a solid B tier legend. Be happy when you see a Lifeline. Maybe wish you had something more useful. Next is Loba. Loba can Q out of danger, and that ability, once they buffed that a bit, it's actually pretty useful. She can get out of places quick or into places quick. Loba can get into a flanking position really easily. It's dangerous in a game like, I'm gonna say a game like Overwatch. In a game like Apex Legends. But done well, playing some cover intelligently, Loba can get some interesting angles. And on top of that, the black market is super useful. So Loba is actually a great supporting character to a lot of these legends. If you're playing a comp where you need to hold an area, lock an area down, Loba enables you to do that without punishing you for not going out and looting, not going out and hitting death boxes. There was a time when I would have had Loba down in like the D tier, but I think she's really good right now. She's definitely not S tier. You don't have to have a Loba, but she works really well in a locking area down comp. And so like if you have an Ash for your recon mobility and a Caustic or a Watson for your locking an area down utility, Loba's awesome. And on other maps, I wouldn't try this on Kings Canyon. I mean, you can. But on other maps, rolling a fuse with a Loba, oh my gosh, it's so much fun. By the end of the match, you just got just grenades on grenades on grenades. It's a lot of fun. Highly recommend you find you a Loba friend and play fuse. But for Kings Canyon, Season 12. Does Loba go B or A? It almost feels wrong to put Loba above Lifeline. I think Loba goes B. I think that's the move. Next is Mirage. My oldest main. I love Mirage as a character. He's my favorite character in the game. I don't know that I love Mirage as a legend. It's funny. He's a fun legend. Getting the bamboozles is a lot of fun. Rolling him in pubs is a lot of fun. The ult causes a lot of confusion, but it can also cause a lot of confusion for your squad if they're not used to playing with a Mirage. The passive of when he reses somebody, he turns them invisible. That's really cool. That's really useful. But the reality is there are not enough high-level players who are going to fall for your bamboozle enough to make it worth your while. Even if they do, there's not a lot you can do to capitalize on that. You can misdirect while you run the other way, but there aren't a lot of situations where that actually winds up helping you. I don't know how much he really helps you get across an open field. I think a cool buff for Mirage would be his ult shooting out a bunch of hymns, but also a bunch of your squad mates. Because you can kind of provide a little cover by popping his ult, but just stop shooting at Mirage and start shooting at his squad mates if they're like crossing a field or something, because usually they stand out in the crowd, right? So that would be a cool buff, but that's not how it works. Right now, Mirage is a fun character. You may think he's a fun legend, but in ranked in general, in Kings Canyon especially, I just don't think he's the play. I'd love to see a little bit of a Mirage rework. I think people play Mirage because they like Mirage, not because Mirage is a strong legend. Next we have Octane. He can stim, costs a little bit of health, he goes faster, he regenerates health. You don't have to carry as many health supplies if you roll an Octane. And his ultimate is the jump pad, which he gets with a pretty great level of frequency. So Octane, key mobility character, right? In Kings Canyon, you need the ability to get in fast and get out fast. And Octane is one of the best legends for that. You're gonna have jump pad like all the time. Octane is an S tier legend. You need one of these guys on your team if you're gonna rank. That's what I'm defining S tier as. Either Ash or Octane so far. We're gonna throw some others in there as well. But yeah, Octane, S tier for ranked on Kings Canyon, Season 12. I have much more to say about that. Pathfinder. This is maybe a controversial one for me. But when you're talking about ranked on Kings Canyon Season 12, Pathfinder has recon and he has mobility. His own mobility, like if you get good with that grapple, you are a hard target to hit. You can get in and out of places personally. You can pull ridiculous flanks. You can control the verticality. But then beyond that, his ultimate, shooting zip lines. Zip lines are maybe not the safest way to travel, but used intelligently, they're great. They do get you across places more quickly. They help you control the verticality. I'm thinking especially like containment, right? You can be down holding containment, and if there's a squad fight up top, you can shoot all the way up to that overlook off of a Pathfinder line. And in addition to that, he can scan for the circles. So he's a great legend for taking your defensive characters where they need to go to lock an area down, knowing where you need to be off of that scan, and every time he scans, he gets his ultimate instantly, and he gets a cooldown reduction to his ultimate that lasts for the rest of the game. So he gets his ultimate even faster every time he scans it. So I think Pathfinder is actually an S tier legend for King's Canyon. If you're not big into Ash or Octane or any other mobility legend, I think Pathfinder's the person for you. And if you don't want to play lock it down style, I think you can put together a couple of mobility legends, and if you communicate and use their ults in a rotating way, you can be always on the move, never holding still, and so you're never in the middle of the squads that are just endlessly collapsing on each other in this map. Next we have Rampart. Rampart. Now, Rampart's so good in theory. Like, her kit is a great concept. She is a lock it down legend. And I've seen more Ramparts here recently than I have before. Crypto can knock her stuff down as well. Sheila, you get a Rampart shielded up in an area with a Sheila up. She can do a lot of damage. And I can't put my finger on why I don't like Rampart, to be honest with you. Or why she's not super effective. Being able to use light machine guns a little better. I think Rampart's one of those legends that we're sleeping on because she got a bit of a bad rep when she first came out. I think there was a time when I would have put Rampart in F tier. And even today, I went into this thing and I'm going to put her in D tier. But I think if you're going to play lock it down mode, I think there are better legends for that. But I think Rampart's not a bad choice. If you're decent with Rampart, I'm going to put Rampart at C. I think that works. Next we have Revenant. Another legend that I love, who is deeply hated. And when you're evaluating whether you're going to use some of these legends, right, it comes down to what do you want to do? You want to just pick up rank points? All right. Do you have some sort of code of honor where you feel like, well, it doesn't count if I pick them up in a certain way? Then you're going to avoid certain legends and tactics. But if you just want to climb, if you just want to excel at Apex, you want to raise your rank, I don't think Revenant's a bad choice. If you get cut off, if you're the last person standing, Revenant's a great character for ratting, able to climb up to areas. That infinite climb, I know it's not infinite, but geez, it might as well be. Dude can climb super high. His silence ability it's huge, both in terms of impact and size. The hitbox on that thing is stupid. He can keep a character from being able to re-trap an area. His ult, being able to push in with impunity. It's all very useful. More people don't play Revenant because he feels like a cheap character. That's the reality. But he feels like a cheap character because his kit is super useful. So you can say Revenant is trash, he belongs in the F tier. But the reality is he's at least B tier, maybe higher, and that's why we hate him. Revenant is easy mode in this game. You pair him with a mobility legend, you can push in, get your points. I think Revenant is a solid pick. I love the character. I would personally like to see Revenant's ultimate get a rework that makes him feel less cheesy, so that the stigma of playing Revenant would disappear. I think he's a lot of fun. Yeah, I think he's a solid choice, especially trying to get into some of those bunkers. Sometimes you can use his ultimate and get lucky and tear someone's bunker down and be able to push back in and finish the job. So he's not useful for locking an area down. He's not useful for mobility though. So for King's Canyon, I wouldn't put him any higher than B. But the legend as a whole, he's pretty strong. Seer is Recon. Seer has a passive where his heartbeat sensor, I know they nerfed it, but it is still super strong. He can just aim down sights and know if anybody's around you. That information is huge. Using that information well is insane. Like, it gives you such an advantage. In addition to that, he can scan for circles, and his Q ability highlights enemies when it hits them behind the wall, and interrupts their actions, whether that's revives, whether that's healing, whether it's about trying to ult out of somewhere. It's massive. And I have never understood why Seer is he was OP when he launched and he needed the nerf that he got, but once he got that nerf, people acted like he was useless now, and I don't get it. So you may disagree with me, but I actually think Seer right now is more useful than Bloodhound. Especially you get into those late games where people, yeah, he can scan for circle. You get into those late games where you're holding an area and you're trying to see where squads are. I think Seer is a great legend where he can just passively, he knows where everybody's at. When you get down to that last circle, and look, if you're in the lower elo, I know like bronze, silver, you have games that don't even go till the final circle closes. I remember those days. Even in gold and plat, sometimes you get to just a few squads in that last circle. But the higher you get, the more people make it into those final rings. Diamond and higher, it is not unusual to have 5 or more squads as the final circle is closing in. And so once you hit that level, especially like Seer being able to read those locations, that's massive. And so I think he's an A-tier legend. I would take him or Crypto as my recon if you need a recon on your squad. Next we have Valkyrie. Another legend I love. I love all these legends. Except for Amber. I don't know what. Valkyrie though, alright, so she has a passive, she's got her jetpack, she can fly. That's big. I love it. I was a Valk main for a long time, and one of the things, like, she's got this voice line. People always look around, but they never look up. And it is spot on. You can like get above people and they don't look. You can just drop on top of people and destroy them. Lights a circle of fire around somebody. They're all trapped in there. You just fly up and then fall down, LMG or SMG or AR blazing, and just tear a squad apart. You can get into these crazy spots, get crazy angles. That alone, super useful for her own purposes. Valk can scan for ringing. She's got that recon ability. When she's flying through the air, whether it's a redeploy or using her ult, she's scanning everyone on the ground. That's huge, especially on Kings Canyon where you got people ratting behind rocks and stuff. The number of times I'm trying to rat and a Valk squad flies overhead, sees me, and then just drops on me and ruins my whole day. That's huge. And then on top of that is, of course, the ult. It's not the quickest ult. I think it's the same as a Caustic ult. I think it's like 3 minutes. But she can redeploy from any location, and that's a huge deal. That's the kind of mobility you need in Kings Canyon. You get into trouble, you're the squad in the middle while everyone's pushing in. All right, we just get behind a rock for a second and we take off. So Valk S tier, recon and mobility. So if you don't want to run your comp, recon, mobility, defense, Valk can be the person that does recon and mobility to free up your third slot to be something else. Bring your Loba in or your Lifeline in or whatever you're going to play. Or you want to run some double defense. I did that with some friends the other night. We had a Watson, a Caustic, and a Valkyrie. That works pretty well. Also works well with Ashe. And especially the way Kings Canyon is, there's so many like high spots that are great to hold. Valk's a great choice for that. So, Valkyrie. S tier, no doubt. Watson! I'm obsessed with Watson right now. This has been my past week. I am loving some Watson gameplay. Now that I've gotten good with her, she's just so great for like just locking an area down. There's an area near, I want to say Armory. That's not what it's called. The like military installation near where the fuse crash site is. There's like an elevated area outside of that. Like we fenced it up to control that cliff the other night, won the game from there. Eventually got pushed off of it into an open field, but she can lock down the angles even in some open field situations. And I know you can just break that fence, but when someone shoots that fence, it gives you an immediate alert that they're there. You know where somebody's at, and you can descend on them. If you're waiting for them, even at Diamond, I'm surprised at how many people just try to rush through a Watson fence and take the fight. I've been frying some people. I don't understand the mindset there, but even if they're smart about it and they lean in and shoot the fence post or whatever, they give you a little split second there where if you capitalize on it, you can lay some damage down. So she's great at holding an area. On top of that, the ultimate, which recharges shields up to a point and takes projectiles out of the air, that's the Caustic ult. So Caustic can't gas his way in and be offensive and attack you. That's Jibby ults. You can save your team in an open field with a clutch Watson ult. There's enough time to throw it down immediately if you do it right. Same goes for the Bangalore ults. Of course, grenades, Ashes, Tether, all this stuff. It's huge. I think she's one of the strongest characters in the game, and that's true. Like there was a period of time where people were like demanding a Watson buff, and the developers won't do it because Watson's win rate is so high. And so generally Caustic is considered the stronger lock it down legend. And I think for most people, Caustic is probably the more fun to play legend. And he definitely has better offensive utility. But Watson is the better lock it down legend, I'm telling you. If you're trying to lock it down, well, get good with Watson. But that being said, it's hard to play Watson without a mobility character and Exceed on Kings Canyon. And so for ranked Kings Canyon Season 12, we're throwing Watson in the A tier. Then we get Wraith. Wraith has been a main pick from day one for a lot of reasons. Very cool character. The kit, being able to queue and phase into another dimension temporarily so you don't take damage, that's big. Being able to teleport your team into an area, creating this little wormhole, that's huge. Great relocation. We've got mobility for Wraith. We've got mobility for Wraith's team. That's exactly the kind of thing that we need on Kings Canyon. And also her passive, warning people when they're traps, warning people when she's being aimed at. If you're paying attention to that, if you're alerting your team to that, that bit of input is huge for your decision making. And so, I think Wraith is also S tier right now. Maggie runs fast with a shotgun. That's her passive. Maggie can shoot this flaming drill that does damage through a wall. It can break doors. It can hurt people in an enclosed space. It can shoot through some rocks. It can hurt people through a Jibby bubble. Great counter there. And her ult is Wrecking Ball. If it hits you, you get stunned pretty badly, and it leaves these little patches that speed boost your squad if they run over them. Great for pushing in, great for pushing across fields. I don't know that you get it often enough to use it as much as you might need to. So I wouldn't consider her a mobility legend. And even then it's pretty limited, and it really highlights to your enemies where you're going to run when you lay that path down. I know Pathfinder's Zipline does that as well, but its utility outweighs the cost for me. For Maggie, that's not the case. I think Maggie's a fun legend to play. But I don't think I think she needs a little buff, some kind of rework to make her super useful to the meta. She's great for countering a Jibby bubble in a field. But in Kings Canyon, I've already told you, I just don't think that that's your biggest worry in ranked. And so, I think Maggie's the D tier right now. I could be convinced otherwise by some Maggie mains. Maybe you can make the case for her, but right now, yeah, D tier. There's my ranked. So for Kings Canyon Season 12, I think that Mirage is F. B tier is Maggie. C tier is Bangalore, Fuse, Horizon, and Rainbow. B tier is Bloodhound, Lifeline, Loba, and Revenant. A tier is Caustic, Crypto, Gibraltar, Seer, and Watson. And S tier is Ashe, Valkyrie, Octane, Pathfinder, and Wraith. And so what I mean by that is you need one of these S tier legends, I think, if you're gonna climb well. And you should probably have an A tier legend or two. And then, you can decide from there based on how you want to play, whether it's more offensive, mobile, locking an area down. But in Kings Canyon, you want to exceed, you've got to play more carefully. And people don't want to hear that, but that's reality. If you want to go up in rank, especially right now when placement means more than it ever has, you need to play for position. You need to be able to relocate. You need to be able to get out fast, and you need to be able to lock an area down when it comes time to do that at the end of the game. And if you can't do those things, you're gonna have a challenge. So if you're rolling Horizon, Fuse, Maggie right now, I hope that you are an aim god. Because you are not going to be able to outplay anybody on Kings Canyon. So yeah, there it is.